Being a great leader means being present and accessible and actually, listening and caring and forming a, depth around a two-way relationship with one's like an employee or team member or the team. So being available, being present, and then truly listening and listening from a place of genuine curiosity around how to respond.
What do you believe makes a great leader, and how can entrepreneurs build those qualities?
One of the most important aspects of leadership to me is presence and intentionality. So I guess those are two aspects, but I think being a great leader means being present and accessible and actually, listening and caring and forming a, depth around a two-way relationship with one's like an employee or team member or the team. So being available, being present, and then truly listening and listening from a place of genuine curiosity around how to respond versus listening to react. So I think that's important. And then, intentionality. And when I use that word, what I mean is having a clear vision and being, articulate about that vision and what success looks like, and then getting out of the way to create space for the team to be able to activate and execute around that vision. So allowing for a team to have autonomy and creativity and agency when it comes to the choices that they make on a daily basis is key. So have a clear vision and then get out of the way. And when I say get out of the way, I don't mean abandon. I just mean, stay connected, but allow space for the team to be able to approach executing that vision in their own way.
You talk about trusting the process and taking bold steps as an entrepreneur. How do you personally overcome fear and uncertainty? And perhaps this connects to the previous question when navigating new and uncharted paths.
I'm always in the process of learning to trust myself, to trust my instincts, to trust my experience, my intuition, to trust myself. And what that looks like is when I don't know, so for me, I get really scared when I don't have a clear roadmap or a clear path towards executing my vision. And when I can't see the path, I can shut down. And what I'm learning is that rather than focusing on the, dozens or even hundreds of steps that it's going to take in order for me to bring a vision to reality, I am focusing on, getting quiet. I practice, quite a lot of mindfulness techniques and meditation, and I'm really learning to tune in and listen to, let's call it like my inner voice or my inner wisdom or intuition, to uncover what is the right next step that is required here now, and then actioning that relatively quickly. So I'm I'm learning to shorten the amount of time between when I know, when I have that intuitive hit and when I act on it. And then I'm also really learning to trust that when I take that next step and that it's complete, that the next step reveals itself. And so the way I live my life and the way that I lead today is much more focusing on knowing, what's right in front of me and doing that really well than being overwhelmed with, needing to see sort of the 5 or 10 year roadmap, for example.
That's really interesting. It's like not knowing what's around the corner and trusting yourself to take a peek and be able to make a decision based on what you see.
Yes, exactly. You bottom line that so well.
For SMB leaders listening today or watching, what are the first 3 steps they should take to start building an authentic, engaged community?
Yeah. So be really clear about and invested in the quality of human beings that you hire to be a part of your brand or business. I believe wholeheartedly that, the most iconic, sustainable, noteworthy brands are maniacal about the quality of talent that they bring on. Know what you're looking for, be clear on the profile of the candidates that you're looking for, be, really intentional in your hiring process, and then take time up front to invest in a really strong onboarding experience. And as a founder, I think it's so important for the people you hire to hear from you, your vision and what success looks like, and then, continue to plug into your team along the way at regular intervals. And as you're doing that, create two-way dialogue. So be clear about your vision and what you see what you're creating and what you want your people to be a part of, and then look for opportunities along the way to be in a two-way conversation. So there's a trend here around feedback, which I'm realizing like maybe it's a core value of mine that I'm just seeing now for the first time. But I think it's so important to be asking for, listening to, and responding to feedback. And I think that's true in any relationship, but I think it's especially true in business when it comes to listening to your customers. So it starts with your people and investing well there. And then I think it expands to asking your people, your team, for feedback, and then your customers. So open door policy around feedback through all of the channels available around the product or the service you offer and how it can be better and be improved. And something that I don't want to overlook is the importance of knowing who your ideal customer is. So that aspirational, or ideal target customer that you're looking for, and being clear that you know who you're seeking feedback from, and that you're not necessarily trying to be everything for everyone, but it's that target customer that you're looking for, that invaluable, insightful feedback. And then you're responding to it, and you're articulating that you're responding to it, both internally and externally. So I think those are some really important steps. Community Academy, we really acknowledge the value and the importance and the potential for digital and performance marketing to be impactful when it comes to growing a business. And we believe that it can't be impactful without also creating these authentic connections and relationships with your customers. And so it can be done online or it can be done in person. Bringing people together in the context of the product and how it's intended to be used, and creating moments of connection, moments of inspiration, is super key. And it's probably easier for me to give examples of this in the context of like a real life scenario with a brand, but a simple example that may or may not be familiar to folks is, at Lululemon, we were looking to engage with our community in all sorts of different ways around the product. And so we came up with the idea to create the world's most fun half marathon right here in our hometown of Vancouver. And it was called the Seawees Half Marathon. We had tens of thousands of community members from all over the world come to Vancouver to get their hands on, the new exclusive product that was specifically designed for runners for this particular event, and then gave them an experience of that product in community. And so that's a large scale example, but it can happen, at a much smaller scale over, it could be, a long table dinner, or it could be a seminar, like an educational offering where you're bringing a small but intentional group of people together to share more about the product, the problems that it solves, how it was designed, and then give them a really generous experience of it so that they can, discover something new for themselves and then share that hopefully with their friends and family and, their community members to help create a spark.
So your website looks great at communityacademy.co. How can SMB CEOs and entrepreneurs connect with you and get involved with Community Academy or your coaching?
Yeah, well, I'd love you to check out our website so that you can learn a little bit more about the master class that we have just very recently launched last week, actually, and some early access pricing. So there's an opportunity for founders themselves. I think it's we certainly designed Community Academy with founders in mind, especially founders that have never built a business, or organically before, or never built a business before, because I think that a lot of the philosophy, tools, resources that we offer can be really helpful for a founder of SMBs to have insight into. We certainly created the course for marketing leaders within those organizations. And so it can be online, self-led. And we're also very interested in working with businesses that want to create capacity internally around community marketing. And so, we'd love to work with leaders who want to put their whole marketing team through Community Academy as a way of diversifying the approach to building long-term loyalty away from like a hyper narrow focus on paid and performance marketing. So to get in touch with us, you can check out communityacademy.co. You can book a complimentary discovery call with myself. I would love to hear from anyone interested in learning more, with absolutely no strings attached. And then my coaching and consulting practice, you can learn more about from Christa via christahull.com. And I also book a complimentary discovery call for either coaching or consulting services if you think there might be, alignment between, my background experience and values with your business. I would love to hear from anybody who'd like to learn more.
We'll put those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that we left unsaid that you think we should highlight regarding community building or professional development?
Nope, I would just be repeating things that we've already talked about. I feel really clear and really grateful for the opportunity to connect with you and share a little bit more about what I am like so passionate about in the world of business. So thank you for the space.
Well, thank you, Christa.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.